Hello everyone, it's Fu here, and today I want to talk to you about the buffs to returning Pokemon in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. If you want to avoid spoilers, I will not be talking about any new Pokemon. I will just be talking about returning Pokemon. I may mention some of the new moves. I'll cover nerfs in a different video, and I'll also cover the Hisuian Pokemon coming over from Pokemon Legends Arceus in a different video, because they've been implemented in a very different way, because this is a more conventional main series game, which definitely warrants its own video. I'll start with the ones which have a major impact on competitive, and then I'll go into the ones that I'm more interested in, which are the buffs to the overlooked Pokemon that will make them a lot better. So first off, Grimmsnarl now gets Parting Shot, and this is massive for VGC. Grimmsnarl was an amazing support Pokemon. With the Prankster ability, it could set up Light Screen and Reflect very efficiently, and it also had access to Fake Out. It could do speed control with Thunder Wave and Scary Face, but its main issue was that it could be in positions where it wasn't exerting much pressure, and then you would lose a lot of momentum. Parting Shot is amazing because it solves that problem. You get to drop the opponent's offensive stats while switching out and gaining that momentum back, which is fantastic. So this is a game changer for Grimmsnarl. It's only going to be even better in VGC. In singles, I also think this will have a really good impact on its viability, also as a dual screen set with Light Screen and Reflect with Parting Shot to get that momentum, or alternatively, even on offensive sets like a Choice Band set with Parting Shot will definitely be enhanced, because choiced sets do like moves that gain you momentum. All in all, this is massive. Grimmsnarl is looking really, really good this generation. Moving on, we have Delphox, which is returning, which is really nice to see because it skipped Generation 8. Delphox is a fast and relatively powerful Fire Psychic type. It now gets access to Focus Blast, which is a neat coverage move. It means that it can now hit things like Tyranitar for really great damage, and also Heatran. But it also gets access to Nasty Plot, which is huge, because being able to massively increase your damage output with that special attack boost from Nasty Plot will allow Delphox to be a much more viable sweeper. It's got a decent speed tier, so there are definitely positions that you could be in where Delphox can just sweep. This Pokemon's looking fantastic. Two of the biggest buffs this generation are to Urshifu and Zarude. They both gain access to Swords Dance. For Urshifu, this is massive. Currently, it usually holds the Choice Band for that immediate power, but Swords Dance allows it to become a very viable sweeper. Both of its forms have access to strong stab priority moves, so if you set up that Swords Dance, it's easy for this Pokemon to clean in the late game. Similarly with Zarude, being able to set up that Swords Dance may enable sweeps. Zarude doesn't have any stab priority at the moment. It still doesn't have Sucker Punch, which really sucks, but it is faster than Urshifu, so it may just naturally outspeed your opponent's team. And it also gets access to the new move Trailblaze, which is a grass type move which boosts your speed. We've seen this in some of the reveal trailers already, and so this move is looking really good. And actually, in combination with Swords Dance and Trailblaze, you could get speed and attack boosts, and Zarude could be a very terrifying sweeper. There were a number of Pokemon that newly got access to close combat. One of those Pokemon is Breloom. This is massive because Breloom had to rely on superpower previously to have that powerful fighting type move to go for, and that drops your attack stats, so it meant that Breloom wouldn't have consistent damage output. Now with close combat, Breloom is looking much more threatening. It also gets Gunk Shot, which is a nice coverage move for fairy types and grass types, so again, Breloom is looking super strong. We have Chesnaught that also gets close combat, so that will definitely benefit Chesnaught's more offensive sets. It also gets access to Body Press, which is really cool. So if you don't want to boost your attacking stats, if you boost your defensive stats, Chesnaught will still hit really strong. Or if you just want to run a defensive set and invest in its defense, Chesnaught will be very strong with that Body Press too. So I really love that Chesnaught is getting some attention here. Another Pokemon that gets close combat is Medicham, which is huge. Medicham always had to run High Jump Kick. Now this is slightly more powerful than close combat, but it is much more risky because you have a chance to miss, and if you miss, then you lose half your health. Especially if you're going up against anything with Protect that can just click Protect and you lose half your health. That was a massive problem for it in any VGC format. So with close combat, this is much more reliable, and Medicham is looking a lot better. It did actually get access to a number of other really interesting moves as buffs, but I think this one's the biggest one. So this one's kind of the biggest ticket item there. And then also Toxicroak, which is really interesting because the other three I mentioned are Pokemon that weren't in Generation 8, but Toxicroak was. So despite there being a TR for close combat available, it wasn't able to learn it. Now Toxicroak has close combat and gunk shot as extremely powerful stab moves. It has options for priority moves too, and obviously can set up with Swords Dance. So Toxicroak is looking more threatening than ever. A really crazy one is that Quagsire now gets all the hazards. It never got any hazards before, but it now learns Stealth Rock, Spikes, and Toxic Spikes, which is crazy. This Pokemon relies on its unaware ability to be very viable because it can basically ignore the opponent's stat boosts. It's really great for countering specific setup sweepers, and it's really quite commonly seen on stall teams. Now it will have even more of a place on those teams because it can help with the hazard stacking. So this Pokemon's looking really good. It did also experience some nerfs, which I'll go into in a different video, but I think that getting access to hazards for this Pokemon is so monumental that we will see a lot of use of Quagsire. The Regis from Sword and Shield also received buffs. Regieleki got access to Charge Beam, which is a stab move that will get the Transistor boost that also can boost its special attack stats. So this Pokemon can now sweep quite effectively. Regieleki also got access to Terra Blast, as did most Pokemon that I'm talking about here. Terra Blast is learnt by pretty much all Pokemon. But why it's so notable for Regieleki is that Regieleki only really learns electric type moves. It has almost no coverage move to speak of. So for any opponents that are immune to electric type attacks, Regieleki is no threat at all. However, with Terra Blast, if you terrestrialize into a different typing, Terra Blast will match that typing, so Regieleki can now hit those Pokemon. So for example, if you go Ice type Regieleki, you'll hit all the ground types that are immune to your electric moves for super effective damage. So this is really game changing for a Regieleki, more so than other Pokemon. Speaking about Regidrago, it was in a similar position to Regieleki in that it only really had Dragon type moves, although it did have Fire Fang, which was nice. But now it gets access to Earth Power and Earthquake. These are ground type moves and a much higher base power than Fire Fang, so these are great for hitting steel types and really boost the viability of both its special and physical sets. Like Dragon Dance with Earthquake looks very powerful, and Dragon Energy with Earth Power looks really powerful too. And on top of that, Regidrago can also terrestrialize, so it looks like maybe Terra Steel or Terra Poison would be really great, so that it then also has a super effective move to hit fairy types. So both Regidrago and Regieleki are looking stronger in this generation. I think Regidrago with those ground type moves is amazing though, and that's really something to look out for. Then we have Drednaw, and this Pokemon learns Shell Smash, which is massive. All the other water rock type Pokemon that learns Shell Smash previously don't actually make it into Scarlet and Violet. So that's Omastar, Caracosta, and Barbaracle. None of them make it. So Drednaw now has a real niche. It's actually got a really nice speed tier and a very high attack stat, so it will be hitting really hard after it does go for that Shell Smash. And you don't have to run Swift Swim for the speed because Shell Smash gives you the speed boost, so it can run its strong jaw ability. So with Ice Fang that gets a strong jaw boost, as well as maybe Jaw Lock, it's got Stone Edge, it's got water type moves. This thing will have great coverage and will be a very viable sweeper, which is really nice to see. Now let's move on to some more overlooked Pokemon that maybe won't shake the world, but I think will be a lot better than they have ever been. So first off, Jumpluff has got some really significant buffs. It's always been more of a support Pokemon because it doesn't have very high offensive stats, and it now gets access to Pollen Puff, Charm, and Tailwind. What it's been known for previously is just very fast sleep powders and also Rage Powder for misdirection. With Tailwind, it can now support its team by boosting their speed, which is absolutely amazing. So that's a really nice supporting option for Jumpluff that I think we will see a lot in VGC. It gets access to Charm, which is again really great for debuffing your opponent and completely neutering their damage output. And then Pollen Puff is great as a way to heal your ally. So it's a damaging move and it's an attack. That means that you can't taunt Jumpluff to prevent it using Pollen Puff. It will still be able to heal its ally even if it's taunted. All these moves really boost Jumpluff's viability, and I can see it being really effective in doubles. Oricorio also returns to this game, which is nice to see. I liked all of its different forms and the typing options it gives. Now it learns Quiver Dance, which makes so much sense with its dancer ability. So it could copy dancing moves, but Oricorio itself didn't learn some really important dancing moves, and I think Quiver Dance is probably the most important one here. It's got decent speed and decent special attack, so after one Quiver Dance, your Hurricanes or your Revelation Dances will be doing a ton of damage. I can't wait to play around with Oricorio, and I think that there are some really fun gimmicky sets to try out as well. One very overlooked Pokemon that experienced some buffs was Swalot. This is a poison type that's relatively bulky, pretty slow, and doesn't have very high offensive stats, although it has amazing coverage moves. So it now gets Sword Stance, and that may mean that it can take advantage of some of those coverage moves. So it has like Gunk Shot and then Earthquake, loads of elemental punches. It can hit for so many different types, which is amazing. So I'm really glad that it gets Sword Stance so that we can maybe see some more offensive sets. It does get Toxic Spikes too. That probably suits its stat profile a bit more as more of a utility Pokemon. And then it also got access to Stuffed Cheeks and Body Press. Stuffed Cheeks is really interesting because it used to be Greedent's signature move. It eats its held berry, gets the effects of the berry, and then also boosts its defense by 2 stages. It pairs really well with Body Press because Body Press deals its damage based off your defense stat. So if you're boosting your defense with Stuffed Cheeks, you can then also do more damage with Body Press. So these are some really interesting moves for Swalot, and I'm really interested to see how we can make them work in competitive. Golduck now gets Nasty Plot, which is fantastic. It has a Swift Swim ability, so really its niche would be a Swift Swim sweeper, and having access to Nasty Plot sets it apart from some of the others, so that before you go for your sweep, you get +2 special attack. Then you can spam these rain boosted water type moves at +2 special attack, just decimating the opponent's team. I think that this will really add to Golduck's viability. And also just an additional thing, it does get Power Gem now, which seems like a bit of an omission because most Pokemon with gems on their design, especially gems in the forehead, get access to Power Gem, but Golduck never did. So it's nice to see that it does get Power Gem. There are so many more Pokemon that I could talk about. I'm really excited for Grumpig buffs. It gets Nasty Plot now, as well as Earth Power and Dazzling Gleam and Snarl. It looks really, really fun. Electros got buffs, Beartic, Bayonet. Gallade got some massive changes, Groudon got some massive changes. So if you're interested, I'll leave a link in the description to where I got this information from, and you can check out all the learn sets and the abilities and stats of the Pokemon. Let me know in the comment section which returning Pokemon you're most excited to see and what buffs you want to try out. But that's going to be all for today. Thank you so much for watching. I've been Foo, you've been awesome, and hopefully see you next time. Goodbye.